Guys, what's going on? James here, and I want to talk a little bit today on an update for training camp. Now, there's been some good stuff that I've been impressed with, but there's been some stuff that I haven't been impressed with, and there's just been some average play in between all of this. And today I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update. So now we've had roughly about a week of training camp practices that have been done, and there's been some good, like I said. I think there's been a lot more good than bad. There's totally been a lot more players that have impressed me than unimpressed me. However, there is some fair share of players who I just overall I personally haven't been that impressed with. Unfortunately, I've only been to one training camp, so I also had to take in the opinions and the pieces of guys like the Tampa Bay Times and the Pewter Report as well, because again, I wasn't able to go any of the practices that had just media access. I was only able to go to the one public practice. But let's start with the positive, right? The players that have impressed me. So there has been a lot of players that have impressed me. Jameis Winston has impressed me. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Adam Humphries has impressed me. But one of the guys that I want to focus on the offensive side of the ball first is Desean Jackson. Desean Jackson, to me, has had the best offensive training camp so far. He's been catching all of the deep balls, which means the quarterbacks have been building the chemistry with him. They've been able to connect with him on these deep balls, which I think is amazing. He runs the crisp routes. I didn't see him drop a pass the entire practice I went, and I haven't really heard of him dropping any passes either. So his hands are still really good. I don't think there was an issue with his hands. I think last year he was had one of the lowest drop rates in the league. So Desean Jackson is just coming on full, he's going full speed ahead, I guess you could say. There was one impressive play that I saw where I think it was Jameis Winston was able to connect. It was either Jameis Winston or Ryan Fitzpatrick, obviously one of the two, but they were able to connect with Desean Jackson on a deep ball in Sunday's training camp practice, which looked freaking beautiful. I saw that. It was on one of the live streams that I did. I didn't catch all of it on the live stream. I only caught the very end of it. However, the fans loved it. I loved it, and it just goes to show that Desean Jackson, after having what you would consider a disappointing year last year, I think it was actually statistically the second worst year of his career. I think that he's able to finally gel with the team, build up more of that chemistry, and come in and just be that dominant guy that we all know he can be. And I also like the fact that they are potentially trying to use him more in the returning game, specifically punt returns. I love that. He did have one muffed punt return, I believe, which didn't look too good. But however, if he can, last time I saw him muff a punt return, he returned it for a game-winning touchdown. So I don't know, but I really hope they do end up using him for the returning game, because I would love that. It would just, we have such a versatile weapon. Let's use him in all of his versatility, But another player that I wanted to talk about that did impress me on the offensive side of the ball was Cameron Brate. Cameron Brate has just looked phenomenal for tight ends. I haven't seen a lot of O.J. Howard yet, but Cameron Brate, he runs crisp routes. He's got some of the best hands on this team, maybe the best hands on the team, and just being able to see him go out there, run these really nice routes, and just make these really solid catches, high ball catches even at some points, is just really nice. And the quarterbacks as well. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he has his ups and his downs, but I've mostly seen very positive things from him, at least from what I saw. He was making crisp throws. He was able to roll out of the pocket very well and avoid pressure, and even scramble on certain plays when he needed to. And Jameis Winston, he still has had his usual, Jameis messy throw here and there, and bad decision making here and there. But overall, I thought he's looked pretty on par with what we've seen from him. He doesn't look like he's regressed in any way. If anything, I think he's gotten better in certain situations. But I'm actually more impressed with Ryan Fitzpatrick, considering the fact that, he is a backup. He looks like he's ready to be that starter and come in and for these first 3 weeks and just overall be really productive for this team. But moving gears to the defensive side of the ball, I want to talk about, first off, I want to talk about Carlton Davis. Now, during the live stream that I did on Sunday's practice, I actually forgot Carlton Davis's number. That's my bad. I just was so caught up in trying to get the shot that I just had, a brain malfunction. I just completely forgot Carlton Davis. But he's had some really nice pass breakups recently, not just in the practice that I saw, and I'm sure a few other of you guys have seen, but just looking at some of these reports, he's had some pretty good practices. He's the tallest cornerback that we have, and he's able to show his size very well. I saw him go up against Justin Watson in some opportunities, and he's pretty much been dominating Justin Watson, in my opinion, for a good bit of the training camp. Dirk Cutter came out and said that he was pretty impressed with MJ Stewart as well, just shifting segue-wise to another cornerback, and I agree. Me personally, MJ Stewart has looked like he has had the best training camp so far by a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, in my opinion. The dude has done everything. He's been able to blitz the quarterback. He's been able to just make phenomenal pass coverages and make plays on the ball when he needs to. MJ Stewart is looking very good, guys. He's looking very good, and between him and Carlton Davis, kind of both them packaged together, having these impressive training camps, Vernon Hargreaves might not have this versatility role as locked down as we all thought it would be. I still think he's going to end up with the role, if I'm being honest. But still, Carlton Davis has had a very nice training camp, and MJ Stewart might have had one of the best training camps so far. Jason Pierre-Paul is another guy who's impressed me. He came in, and so far he has just been unblockable. I watched him in the one-on-one drills, and I live streamed it in Sunday's practice, and the dude's a beast. The dude's just been killing our offensive line, and he's just looked phenomenal. So I'm very happy that we have him on the team. I feel very confident that he could very, very well get 10 sacks for us, be the first guy since Simeon Rice. I've said that forever, but he's really looking the part right now, and he looks like he was worth that third-round pick that we traded. But moving in to some players that I have not been impressed with. The first thing I want to talk about is our backup offensive line. Our backup offensive line has looked terrible lately. They haven't looked very good. It's been a lot of rotational type guys. I know I think it was Brad Seaton actually came out and has been doing some good things, but Leonard Wester hasn't been able to play, and even when he has, I've never been too impressed with Leonard Wester either, and it doesn't help the fact that he's not able to play. Some other guys that haven't been that impressive, Cole Bouger, not too impressed with him, just watching some one-on-ones, and I'll even say, a lot of this backup offensive line, it's very fluid. I think it can change very easily. So, I don't expect much from this backup offensive line. Maybe it's just the fact that our backup defensive line is just that good. Who knows? But they've been getting kind of manhandled, honestly. Another guy I haven't been too impressed with is the backup quarterback, Ryan Griffin. He's been doing some good things, in my opinion. He's been doing some, decent things, but he also hasn't been doing a whole lot to stand out. And considering how there was a decent bit of hype going in for Ryan Griffin for this upcoming training camp, I don't think he's doing a whole lot to separate himself, to help the separation between him and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Whereas Ryan Fitzpatrick has been very impressive, Ryan Griffin hasn't done a whole lot to say, like, oh, wow, Ryan Griffin should be the starting quarterback over Ryan Fitzpatrick. I haven't seen a lot of that. I don't think he's done anything super bad. He has made the errant mistakes. I think he threw an interception to Jordan Whitehead in Sunday's practice, which, shout out to Jordan Whitehead. But still, he hasn't done a whole lot to make me think, like, yeah, we should totally start Griffin over Fitzpatrick. Maybe that can change later on down the line and whenever we get into preseason games, but honestly, it looks like any hope that some people had for Ryan Griffin to take that starting job from Fitzpatrick, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And then finally, another guy I'm disappointed with, and hopefully he can rebound, is Will Gholston. Right now, as it stands, Will Gholston, he's struggling. He's struggling a little bit, to be fair. That backup offensive line, and especially some of the starters that I've been talking about, have just been manhandling Will Gholston. I think, like, Ali Marpet's been killing Will Gholston among some of these other offensive linemen, which is kind of expected because, William Gholston, he's coming back from these injuries, and, even then he wasn't supposed to be, like, a super high-tier pass rusher anyway, but it's still just a little disappointing considering, you're paying him a decent bit of money to be what is now a backup defensive end. He might be a trade piece later on in the season, I don't know, But it's just disappointing whenever you give a guy money and he goes out and he unfortunately gets injured, and then he might not come back from an injury as good as he once was. So moving forward, I'm gonna be paying attention to guys like Ryan Griffin, like our backup offensive line, like our backup defensive line, and see how all that shakes out. Hopefully they can improve. And obviously I'm gonna be paying attention to MJ Stewart, Carlton Davis, Desean Jackson, and all these other players that I mentioned, and just see how they can go. We've looked really good in training camp, guys, in my opinion. We've looked pretty good. Now, obviously, it's not full contact. It's only like shells and helmets and whatnot. You know how it goes. Take it all with a grain of salt. But all in all, I've been pretty impressed with what the Bucs have been doing lately. Jameis Winston and Fitzpatrick have both looked good, so I think for quarterback, we're looking pretty good. If you're wondering about Ronald Jones, to me, he's been one of those meh guys. He's had his ups and he's had his downs. I don't think he's done anything too terribly bad. He's just trying to learn the system right now, and I think you can say that for a lot of the rookies. Nobody's really super stood out to me for the rookies, in my opinion, besides MJ Stewart and Carlton Davis. Justin Watson has earned the praise of Dirk Cutter on Sunday's practice, but to be honest, I personally wasn't too impressed with Justin Watson. I didn't think, I mean, he ran some very crisp routes, but for that Ryan Griffin interception, he kind of got it wrestled away from him by Jordan Whitehead. So, hopefully he can have better practices. I mean, if that's his only mistake that he made, then he's not doing too bad. I think all those rookies are just having growing pains. But let me know what you think about it, all this, down in the comment section below. Do you have a player that you're impressed with in training camp, or do you have a player that you're not impressed with in training camp? Again, let me know all that down in the comment section below. I do hope you all enjoyed this video. There should be a video coming out around 4 p.m. today talking about the Hall of Fame game, and that's actually going to be the first video that I'm doing in this previewing type series, where I'm going to be previewing some games, I'm going to be reviewing some games, and it's just going to be wonderful. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, I will see you in the next video. But until then, and as always, goodbye for now, guys, and go Bucs.